You've eaten Gotham's wealth, its spirit, but your feast is nearly over.
This is not my home. It's an operating table. And I'm the surgeon. Why aren't you laughing?
From this moment on, none of you are safe.
Welcome to the Batman Book Club, a podcast exploring the Dark Knight Library. I'm your host, Ryan Lauer. The Batman Book Club is a proud member of the Batman Podcast Network, hosted by Batman on Film. Just go to batmanonfilm.com, click on podcasts, and you'll find the Batman Podcast Network that has a whole list of other Bat-related shows that also like to dive into other nerdy subjects we all love to frolic about. Yes, Peter Vera. In our free time, the Batman Book Club is also on Patreon. If you like what's going on with the show and you want to help support the show, just go to patreon.com/the Batman BC. Now, thank you for listening to episode 141, Mad Love, the first ever Valentine's Day special here on the Batman Book Club. What a crazy coincidence that this just so happened to work out. Joining me for this episode, for this discussion, is a man who's all about love, making his triumphant return to the show since episode 36. Back in Christmas time of 2020, covering one of my favorite Batman stories of all time, Batman Noel. From the For Comic Junkies podcast, it's JJ Hodges. Hello, JJ. Welcome back to the Batman Book Club.
Oh, thank you very much, Ryan. Yeah, so I guess in 3 years I'll be on like a St. Patty's Day episode, maybe. We'll do that next.
Yeah. I think I gotta do some digging and we'll see. It's holiday. If you're holiday themed, watch your back, JJ.
Oh boy.
Somebody's
Oh,
coming.
boy.
Somebody's coming. I don't know if you want that honor.
No, I don't want Gilda Dent looking after me, or possibly Alberto Falcone.
Okay.
Either
So
one
we'll
of them. Stay away from me.
just do a day that's like, June 17th. Shit, that'll end up being a Father's Day one of these years. Damn it.
Hey, there is a really good Tom Taylor Father's Day issue with Bruce and Alfred.
Yeah. But trying to avoid holidays. I'm not trying to be the one that's liable for your incoming murder, apparently. I don't know. Shit.
Well, you know what? If that's the case, I'll make sure that everyone knows it was you.
Okay. If you gotta go with a smile. But I'm really happy that for this very first ever Valentine's Day special, we're keeping the mood up and happy and joyful, talking about your pending doom. But let's just go ahead and I mean, that's kind of fitting considering the story we're about to talk about.
Oh, it's pretty dark. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty good like some dark humor. I'm just going to change. Let's not talk about your death. You're alive today. You're here. We're going to talk about Batman Mad Love. Now, this story, released in 1993, the end of 1993, written by Paul Dini, with a story by Paul Dini and Bruce Timm, art by Bruce Timm. You know this duo from Batman the Animated Series. The actual issue was the Batman Adventures, Mad Love. It was a special. Released physically. It's been collected in multiple hardcovers. It's been collected in a trade paperback. Those collections are available on my favorite app of all time, Hoopla. It's available digitally as its own special. It's available multiple varieties in DC Universe Infinite Ultra. JJ, for this discussion, which version did you read?
I read the DC Universe Infinite, which is still too many words. Wait, DC Universe Infinite Ultra. Jeez.
Oh,
yes, I read
Ultra.
that. I went that route with it because I was at work and had some downtime, so I pulled up the website while I was at work.
Excellent.
I mean, technically, I didn't have the downtime, but I made it.
Yeah, priorities. I know that I looked this up on the Infinite. Infinite has the 64-page special on its own. I believe Ultra has the Mad Love and Other Stories, or it's the Mad Love Deluxe Edition. I forget which version of those. So I mean, you at least you have a choice. For me, I have a hardcover. The first one that was released in 2009, Mad Love and Other Stories. On Hoopla, there's in 2015, it was the Mad Love Deluxe Edition was released, and inside of that is actually really cool. It has what was collected in my version, the Mad Love and Other Stories. Has a foreword and then commentary from Bruce Timm, and then also has with some of the other stories. There's more commentary at the end of the book from Bruce Timm. Well, the deluxe edition in 2015 was just strictly about Mad Love, but it's really cool because it has the full story and then also has like a colored version, but then Bruce Timm's like his pages. Well, I think there's a black and white version included, and then like colored version with all of his notes to the colorist included in it too. So it's actually something that I found on when I found it on Hoopla. It was actually really cool to just kind of like look through the process and read some of his notes and stuff. So track that down if you're interested in looking into some of that extras, because I'm always all about extras, especially for a story like this. Now, JJ, do you by chance remember the first time that you read the story?
I do actually. It was I must have been I want to say so it came out in 93, so it must have been around that time, like
Oh,
90, 94, 95-ish, maybe, or maybe a little bit later. Um because I remember because I still have it upstairs actually. The first time it was released, the cover with like the big Harley and Joker and Batman are kind of on either side of her. Um, and I thought it was such a striking cover. And obviously as kids, we were, you and me both, I'm sure we're giant fans of the show.
mm-hmm.
Um, and and I remember seeing that and going, oh, cool! It's Harley Quinn and Batman and all that, and reading it and really like even as a kid going like, wow, this is really good. And then like as you know doing like spring cleaning or whatever, every now and then it would pop back up. And as I got older, going, oh my God, this is way more mature than the animated series was. And the animated series, that show got pretty dang mature, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and I just remember being totally captivated by it, and I really remember that the back cover having reviews by like one sentence reviews by Mark Hamill and Frank Miller, and I really want to say John Goodman, but I could be wrong about that. But and they were all praising it, saying like it was like one of the greatest Batman stories they had ever read. And I thought like oh my gosh, like if Mark Hamill and Frank Miller are saying it, then this has to be good, you know?
If John
Like
Goodman is saying this,
yeah,
then it's got to be true. I need to track that
yeah,
down and confirm this, because that might be one of my favorite quote or pull quotes I've ever seen. Then John Goodman loves Mad Love, so we'll look into that. But anyways, carry on.
yeah. But and I just remember thinking it was so cool that it was drawn just like the show, and so it made it that much easier to hear the actors' voices in my head when I was reading through it. And then when they eventually adapted it a few years later, I was always I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit, but I was always super bummed that they adapted it in the new Batman Adventures, because I really I love the new Batman Adventures, but like I felt the Batman and the Joker looked so much better in the animated series. And I was like super bummed that we didn't get that version of it, but at the same time, it's still pretty darn cool to have it come to life and to literally hear Mark Hamill, Arlene Sorkin, and Kevin Conroy saying these lines from the comic, and I'm sitting there going like they're saying all the lines. That's so cool, you know?
Mhm. See, I have difficulty nailing down when I read this, because so I don't have the physical issue.
Hmm.
I this Mad Love and Other Stories that was released. It says in here that it was released in 2009. I bought it as soon as it came out, but it's like I knew this story already.
Hmm.
So I can't I can't pinpoint when I read this for the first time. It's completely, I don't know. I couldn't even guess. It's a story that I've always known. So I know I've said that, from small town, I didn't have like a comic shop nearby or anything. So it's not like I was getting comics monthly growing up in the 90s or anything like that. So it kind of blows my mind as I was sitting here trying to think about that of when did I read this for the first time? Because I know I didn't read it in 2009 for the first time. So I mean, epic fail on that part. I have no idea when I read this story.
Yeah,
So
it's funny you mentioned in the 2009 when they re-released the book,
yeah.
because I remember going to my comic book store at the time, and because I thought I lost that one I was talking about, that Mad Love comic, and I was like, well, gosh, you're like, and at the time there was no DC Universe Infinite Ultra Extra Special thing.
Infinite names.
Exactly. So I was like, well, I'll go to them and I'll put it on my pull list and they'll order me a new one. And and then I found it like a few days later. Oh my gosh, here it is. Like I was wondering what happened to this, buried under something or another, who knows.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like a couple weeks later when I went to the store and picked up my stuff. I think it was the same day. Oh, so that must have been 2011 then, because I'm pretty sure I got it the same day I got Flashpoint #5 and Justice League #1 when the new 52 started. And so they ordered it special for me. And and I remember they like pulled it out. They're like, "Hey, we got that for you." And I was like, "No, no, well now I have to buy it because
Have to.
I don't want to be a jerk and be like, well, I just found my copy, so I don't need this anymore because they went through some trouble and support small businesses and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So then I had two copies.
Lucky. Lucky. Uh, Third question
Yes,
before we hop into the discussion on this book. Why Mad Love?
I I've always had a special place in my heart for the animated series, and
Mm-hmm.
it and I loved that even younger, I recognized that it was it was written and drawn by the creators, right? Like by Paul Dini and Bruce Timm.
Yeah.
So it made it extra special because a lot of those I remember even as a kid the tie-in comics like the new Batman Adventures or Batman Gotham Adventures, whatever they were called. And same with like the Batman Beyond comic that was in conjunction with the Batman Beyond TV show. I never liked those. I was like, these just feel inferior to the actual show. So reading something like this, I was like, oh, this is written and drawn by the people. So it's going to be great. It's going to be better than your average, Batman adventure comic book. And I really loved that. And the story's just always stuck with me. I can't even really explain why, other than I I just have always loved Harley Quinn. And this story, there's something about, I remember asking this on my show years ago with my friend Corey and saying, what to you makes a great Batman story? And he said that he thought the villains made for a great Batman story. And I said most of the best Batman stories were tragedies. And in this case, this is both, isn't it? You get a really tragic origin for Harley Quinn, and even her ending is fairly tragic, or like I don't know, maybe bittersweet would be a better word. But then also, learning her origin and getting an insight into the Joker and how Batman, and we'll get into all that later, but like Batman just kind of one upping her and the Joker, like playing them against each other, um, is really it's so amazing, and I love we don't need the blue beam in the sky stakes at the end of the thing, right? It's just it's just between these three characters, and yet it feels enormous, at least in my mind, if that makes any sort of sense.
Yeah. It's a more it's like a personal touch. It's more involved.
Yeah,
It's not zoomed out looking a bug massive epic or something like that. It's like no, it's down on the ground. It's it's right there next to these three characters. So
Mhm.
I'd say that's definitely like I agree with you that that's definitely a strength in the book, and then also a strength of the book is that it's written by Paul Dini.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, Batman, and you'd have thought he created Batman for how good he is. And I don't know if you've read it. There's two other like versions of this story, at least in the written book medium. And the one is the novelization that's by Paul Dini and Pat Cadigan. I don't know if you've read that novel. Um,
No, I don't
yeah,
think I knew that there was an actual like novel of it.
yeah. A few years ago, they did three novelizations: The Killing Joke, then Mad Love, and then Court of Owls. In
Oh yes,
which,
okay, I did know about that.
okay,
But no, I didn't read it. Yeah.
those three. Killing Joke wasn't very good, I didn't think. Mad Love surprised me because it expanded this story and it did a very good job of it, and it probably helped that it was with Paul Dini.
Hmm.
And then Court of Owls I thought was my favorite of the three because it kind of it was like a prequel. And it was original. It wasn't retelling the Snyder story. So those are two of those three I would highly recommend. And if you're a completist, then yeah, go ahead and get the Killing Joke one. But the Mad Love novel itself I thought was great. And then actually a couple years ago, uh, I'm gonna try the name. I looked it up, and what I heard was by Stepjen Sajic,
Yeah.
wrote and illustrated Harleen, a Black Label story, and that was my favorite book of 2019. I actually just reread that last month, maybe. Love it. Fantastic story. So if you need some more Harley Quinn, track down Harleen, whatever you do, because that is a great story. And it is, I mean, almost like a more mature retelling of Mad Love, but it definitely is its own thing as well. It's not a direct copy of that. It kind of goes for the same themes. And of course, Dr. Harleen Quinzel um turning into Harley Quinn. So those are recommended readings. Ta-da! So let's get started into this story, because this story is definitely known as Mad Love is Harley Quinn's origin.
Yep.
I think and that's what's great too, is that it was so definitive in this team creating the story that I just kind of feel like that's her origin. Don't try something else. That is her origin. Um, and so I think this book is highly held in high regard for that, because I mean, as Dini had even said, like he did not have the idea of what Harley is, like what she is now, what she is in this story when she debuted in that episode of The Joker's Favor.
Hmm.
The forward here even said, oh, let's see. Version of Harley Quinn. Originally created Harley as a sideline character in the Batman the Animated Series episode Joker's Favor. Later, I saw in her the chance to tell a story about her past that would lift her up from being just another goon in a funny suit. The fact that Harley felt affection for the Joker was bizarre. Adding the idea that she had once been a therapist made it tragic. So you even commented about like good stories ending in tragedy and stuff, and that's the tragic element of this.
Yeah.
We will get to, because this is the Batman book club, we will get to Batman's importance in the story. Even though this is a
Hmm.
Harley Quinn story, Batman is definitely key and crucial to the story. So without question, also it's called The Batman Adventures, Mad Love. So I mean, it's not too far of a stretch, but we'll emphasize him. But I know we're going to talk a lot about Harley and Joker. So why don't you go ahead and take it away where you want to start first?
Well, I did want to comment that I have read Harleen and I really
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't reread it in a while, but I've been meaning to. I
Worth
ended up
it.
I bought it for my cousin a couple years ago for Christmas. Because I know she's a big Harley Quinn fan, and I was like, "Oh, like, you're gonna love this." And she ended up uh we ended up I think that was the same night that uh my friend's ex-boyfriend showed up with like all kinds of different liquor that we ended up drinking. So then
Oh,
like the next so the so like the that was Christmas Eve. The Christmas morning, I we were all like eating breakfast very slowly, of course. And I was
and you're
like,
like,
"So did you
gather around, kids. Here's Harleen, page one.
I was like, did you like the book?" And she was like, "Yeah, I literally read it on the couch while you all were drinking, and I told you that I loved it." And I was like, "I don't remember any of that."
I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad
Yeah,
you liked it. I am not having a good day so far.
yeah.
but
Merry
but
Christmas.
anyway, um, but yeah, like you said, it's kind of the definitive origin for Harley Quinn, and I love that it, no matter what has happened with Harley, it's sort of always been her origin. It was her origin in Suicide Squad, in the Batman, the animated series, the Batman. Paul Dini actually wrote that episode,
Hmm.
um, from like 2005 or six, seven, something like that.
Season 4.
Um, yes, okay. And I loved that episode. And and even in, oh gosh, what was I thinking of? The Harley Quinn animated show as well.
Hmm.
It was slightly adapted there as well. Um, and and it's just, so that aspect of it has always stuck with me because it's like, like Bruce Wayne's parents getting murdered, like Harley Quinn was a therapist turned evil, well, not evil, but you know, turned into like a bad guy. But it's like, hey, if the origin ain't broke, don't fix it.
Hmm.
Because I have read stuff that, I think there was a book called, I think it was called Breaking Glass. It was like a YA novel a couple years ago, and I read about it, and I was looking at it going, like, it sounds kind of interesting, but you already, the Harley's origin's fine the way it is. This one was a little bit different. Her being like a teen activist, and Joker kind of got. I don't even think Batman's in it, to be honest with you, but I don't know. But I never read it. I just read about it. Regardless, but the character has always stuck with me, and I love the that the book does feel like an episode of the TV show. Like,
Hmm.
and obviously that was by design, but it it just has such a, like a, I don't know, it feels like it's always been there, kind of a feeling. You know what I mean? Like, that's
Yeah,
the that's the best
that's
part
why I
of.
don't know when I first read it.
There you go.
It's
And,
always
and
been there.
I love the idea of the Batman villains that have been created in the past, you know, 30, 20, 10 years. The ones that have stuck around are the ones that feel like they've always been there. Like, Jeff Parker had Harley Quinn in his Batman 66 comic,
Hmm.
and he had Bane in that comic as well. And neither one of them were around in the 60s, but they fit so seamlessly into Batman's world no matter what, that you're like, oh man, like they've always been there, haven't they? Even though, like, your logical brain is going, well, no, because Bane and Harley were actually created around the same time, actually, right? Like in the early '90s. Um, but yeah, and I love that the book, like I said, it's just so simple. It's very straightforward. It's Harley kind of retelling her origin, and then thinking, you know what, like, if I just kill Batman, then Joker and I can be together. And it's just such a, you can tell the synopsis of the story in like two or three sentences, and then, but the story is just so layered and deep, and it's, like I said, it's stuck with me all these years, just going, man, like, it's, I mean, it's classic. I mean, that's the best word for it, isn't it?
Yeah. And so a strength in it for sure is definitely that it feels like a continuation, or it feels like another episode. I mean, I know now we do have the episode, but at the time it felt like another episode of the animated series. You can hear it now. You can hear Mark Hamill voicing Joker. You can hear Arlene Sorkin voicing Harley. You can hear Kevin Conroy, RIP, voicing Batman. Like, those, it's just great. I love that element because the art is lifted from the show. Okay, so
Mhm.
now add to it too this character of Harley Quinn, who, I mean, fans instantly fell in love with in the animated series. She got, like, her role grew, and so she just became like a constant there with Joker. And Dini doubled down on her tragic backstory, in which what we get here now, before we even get the explanation of where, like, how it happened. This is like, this is my Harley Quinn. This is my favorite version of Harley Quinn. And I think
Mhm.
for every single reason that I like, the short little part that I just read that Dini forwarded, in the sense of there is something bizarre in how she can be obsessed and in love with the Joker, obsessed over him.
Yeah.
It's bizarre in how that can happen. Like before it even gets to that part, he talks about how, it's happened to me, it's probably happened to you. You will meet that one special person who will put their fist through your heart. Uh, like mad love is when you fall so passionately for a person, particularly the wrong person, that nothing else in the world matters. Um, like that's the basis of this Harley, and it's fascinating to me, not because of like that he showing Joker being entertained by her, and you can see like in his way of like I think he does love Harley Quinn. And
Mhm.
then the times that he can, like, as he does in this book, like he's done with her and he's over her. And then she is like sad puppy dog of like, oh, she disappointed him. And then he can flip it at times. And when she's like had enough, she's like, no, I'm through with you and I'm done. And we saw this in the animated series too. Like when she basically cuts that cord from him and is off, that's when he becomes infatuated with her. So it's like this really strange back and forthness between the two. And then when they are together and are getting along, they do complement each other so well that it's just like Dini, he nailed a relationship for that show that I think is kind of everlasting. Harley has gone her own direction, probably the past 10 years or so.
Mhm.
Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Connor both have done their version to massive success, and that's kind of where Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn is right now as well. Um, I find that part fun, but I think the strength of Harley is definitely in her relationship with Joker. We don't see happy fun times with the two in this story.
No.
It, instead, it's like yet again, there's a booby trap that failed. It was too Joker's idea and plan at the dentist office, opening at the dentist office for Gordon. It was too simple for Batman, and Batman foiled the plan. And then Joker's just stressed out because he's burned out because he just can't think of a plan to take down Batman. And he's had enough with Harley because Harley's just kind of pushing it, and he just drags her down the warehouse and gives her the boot. And that's where she, like you said, she's like, it's Batman. It's always been Batman. So she needs to now think of how to remove Batman from the equation.
You
Yep.
know,
Go
sorry, go
ahead.
ahead.
No. You got
Uh, uh,
it. Yeah. Okay.
um, I, I, I really love that aspect of the story too.
Mm-hmm.
In this being, again, the origin of Harley and early days Harley, really, I love where the character's gone. But yeah, there is something great about the idea that she was, she was just this like lovesick puppy dog that got manipulated by the Joker, and I love the idea that she needs to blame somebody, and who's to blame for all the bad things that have happened to her? Well, obviously
The
it's not the Joker.
Batman.
Yeah, so it's like it can't be the Joker. She loves the Joker, so it has to be Batman. And and I love rereading that and just feeling like you just want to go, oh honey, like was it that How I Met Your Mother episode with Katy Perry? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh my
Where
goodness.
um we can't remember her name. We just remember always going, "Oh, honey."
Oh, honey.
Uh, so I felt like that way with Harley a little bit because it's it's inferred in the book that um she didn't get her good grades by studying real hard. She kind of slept her way to the top there, and it's and again, so it's like okay, so she didn't so like Batman even says it, right? He's like, oh, she was no saint even when she was younger, So it's like she didn't. She was probably smart, but not like super smart. Like she could, so she could be manipulated by the Joker. So there's a believability to that story that I really enjoyed. Feeling like okay, like like you said earlier about Paul Dini. It's like we all know somebody that's been that has put their fist through our hearts. And I think if by the same token, we also know somebody who because I feel like I've watched it happen with friends I know, not just women, going, like, like this guy's kind of a jerk, or this girl's kind of a jerk, and they're like, no, it's fine. Like, oh, they're not like that when you're not around, kind of a feeling. And it's like, oh, honey.
Um, I'm trying to think what else can add to that. It's just, I think there's something about, I mean, the core of this is like the mad love as Dini's going for, and the manipulation of Joker and why he seeks out this particular person as his project, essentially.
Mhm.
And I mean, that's what our backstory is. And I mean, but that's Harley right out of school, goes to Arkham. And of course, as when you're younger, you are walking with purpose. And you can see that everybody else is tired at their job, but you're like, but things are going to be different because I'm here. And she's
Right.
got that hope and optimism that she's going to get to the Joker, and Joker's opening up to her. So it's like, she is special. She's going to crack this code, make a name for herself. This Dr. Quinn. All of that adds up. All these things that he's sharing with her. I mean, I love those sessions because, of course, it's right on part. You can hear Mark Hamill's Joker with all this dialogue,
Yeah.
and it's such a true element to the character of manipulation.
Hmm.
That's a key factor of Joker is his manipulation as well as his chaos. He's very methodical in manipulation. That's the Joker that I believe in, at least.
Yeah.
Or character trait of him that he just, I don't know. And I love the going back and forth, origin to present, throughout the story till you get the whole thing, and it does flow well. There's no hiccups. It's not taking too long to get there. It's not twisting and turning like it is. It's so crazy to me that it can be so kind of like blunt, but not but still like heavy.
Yeah.
But like in a fun way, not like a heavy way of just like, oh my god, I had to put the book down because I just couldn't keep going. That sort of way. It's like just
Right.
so much weight to the story, but yet it's not trying to overreach either. Especially with characters in a world that's already established at this point. Like the
Hmm.
series had already been on for over a year. By the time this comic came out, so it's like they had their hands, they'd already kind of like at that point, I feel like definitely perfected their craft of this Batman world. So all they could do is really screw it up. And instead they elevate and make maybe one of their most popular pieces of that whole world in the medium that they weren't even doing. Like they weren't messing with the comics.
Right.
Because Bruce Timm had even mentioned that too. And well, Paul Dini had of kind of like nervous that like almost like expecting that they were gonna fail with this comic and stuff. So it's a well balanced 64-page story, and that just flows.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally. What I love about it is that even way before, because I remember reading it before it was adapted into the actual show, and and feeling like, oh, well, this is canon, like this is how it happened,
Yeah.
and feeling like, okay, well, this makes a lot of sense, and really feeling like, well, there was a reality to it that I really enjoyed, um and I've never, and by the way, that phrase that Joker says when he was talking about his father, says pops tended to favor the grape, you see. Like I didn't know what that meant when I was a kid. Obviously later kind of figured it out. But it's funny because I've never heard it described that way ever again by anyone else. Um, and man, people come up with such unique ways to describe, like, oh, that person's an alcoholic. Um, I remember in the Crisis on Earth X episode of crossover with the Arrowverse shows, Flash is talking to Supergirl, and he's like, "Wow, your sister's tipping the elbow pretty hard there." And I was like, where the hell do all these phrases come from? I've never heard these before in my life, and I haven't heard it since. Like tipping the elbow or pops tended to favor the grape. It's like, okay, like like I get what you mean, and I get why you're saying it that way, because obviously that particular phrasing passed standards and practices, because that direct line is in the animated episode as well. Um, and but but going back to the story, like it feeling real, I I liked the idea that you really kind of buy into what Harley's doing at first. It's like, okay, like she's begging, pleading to interview the Joker. She finally gets to, and then she's like, I was ready for anything. And he's like, my dad used to beat me up pretty bad. She's like, oh wow, anything but that.
Mhm.
And and I remember reading it at the time, feeling like, even then, going, no, he's lying. Like,
Yeah.
because again, I don't think I knew it at the time. I don't think I'd read Killing Joke when I was like 8 or 9 years old, but so I hope I didn't.
Oh Lord.
But I might explain a few things. But
Yeah.
seriously, um, but feeling like I like it when the Joker's origin is ambiguous, and finding out later that Batman says everything he told you was a lie, and how that like really like breaks Harley. She's like, well, no, because he told me things he's never told anyone else. And he's like, oh, was it the one about him being a runaway? Was it about the abusive mom, or the alcoholic dad, or whatever? And 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 again, just feeling like, and then like reading it, going like, I think he's lying. None of that happened to him. And then when Batman kind of confirms it, still feeling really bad for Harley, going, oh, this poor kid, just she was just trying to, she wasn't doing it necessarily the right way, but she was trying to make a name for herself,
Mhm.
and she really got screwed over big time by you know Gotham's most notorious criminal.
So all of that in the end. So the joke that's great, of course, is the death of 100 smiles.
Hmm.
Freaking clever as hell.
Yeah,
Expect nothing less from Paul Dini, in that Harley does this entire setup on her own, all
yeah,
to get the approval of Joker. One thing right there, to get the approval of someone is something that everybody can relate to at some point in their life, is trying to get the approval, win somebody over, etc. So it's like you can understand that, of wanting to get someone's attention, make someone proud and such. And someone, for her who's infatuated with Joker, it's like that's what she's longing for,
hmm,
because they're in bad graces and she's trying to make it better. So the fact of, first of all, how she sells it in getting Batman to that pier, how she sells it to have a cardboard cutout of Joker talking and firing a gun, because comics.
of course.
And then she ends up sticking a dart in Batman's neck and hangs him upside down at the Aquacade. More on that in a second.
Hmm.
And the whole plan is like, I know how to get the piranhas to smile. You get Batman upside down. And so that whole setup, and then she did it all. I think, like, man, Paul Dini, like, no wonder people just love it when you're involved with Batman. I just
Yeah,
think that that's like, it's so, it's fun. But it's like the dark sense of humor that we were expecting with the show when it comes to Joker, you know?
yeah,
And then for in the how Batman talks, brings up all these points with Joker, and then at that revelation, Joker gets pissed off because, to me, it's just like jealousy, and his ego gets in the way because she's
yeah,
able to pull it off. And then it is true, when you have to explain a joke, either side of it, it ruins it.
yeah,
So he's got a point there, that it's not funny if you have to explain it to me. And a classic battle of Batman Joker, in which Batman then uses it. And I love this part so much, and how he does tell Joker, confesses that, basically, like, I want to get the words fully correct, and what he says to her of, she almost had me, arms and legs chained, my belt gone, dizzy from the blood rushing to my head. I had no way out other than convincing her to call you. I knew your massive ego would never allow anyone else the honor of killing me, though I have to admit she came a lot closer than you ever did. Puddin'. And can't you hear Kevin Conroy with the pudding
Uh,
line?
so good. And that was the thing with Kevin Conroy is that he could say one word, like literally one word as Batman, and
Mhm.
it would have like 5 layers to it. I mean, he was a classically trained actor, of course, but and something like that where he's like he knows he's pushing his buttons and he knows he's pissing him off, and he's
Mhm.
just having the time of his life. Um, and even same with Harley earlier when he laughs at her, and it's so funny. Like it's slightly off topic, but so um, like a lot of us, I collect a lot of Batman Funko Pops and action figures, and I have them just a lot of them displayed in my living room. And my daughter, who's 3, I don't know where she got it from, but she'll start asking me like how this character laughs. How does this Batman laugh? She'll point to like the White Knight Batman. How does he laugh? She'll point to like the Three Jokers Batman. How does he laugh? And she points to like and I try to go ha 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 ha, whatever. I don't know. I'm just like trying to play along with her. But well, when we get to the Batman who laughs, she's like, how does the laughing Batman laugh? And I'll try my best to imitate Conroy laughing at Harley.
Hmm.
The just and I love that she's like, I don't think I've ever heard you laugh before. That's really scary. And you know, it's
Dad, don't laugh anymore.
it's but uh but getting back on topic, it's just so funny thinking like um on that well on another section on that is thinking, man, I would have loved it if Conroy got to play the Batman who laughs. I'm super bummed that he never got that. Because I think he would have had a blast with it. But regardless, so I think about when I think about the Batman who laughs, I think about Conroy from this comic and from the episode, just laughing so maniacally and scaring the hell out of Harley and thinking like, man, like he like Batman for it's the best time. It's also part of like what makes the Batman story great. When Batman can just be badass without even having to do anything really. Like he's just hanging upside down. He's about to die, and then he's like, "I know how to get out of this. There's one way out of this." And then, and then
Uses
even
his
like late,
wits,
exactly.
his biggest superpower.
And even when the Joker tries to get away from him and lands on the train, which is like physically impossible, but it's still a cool visual.
You know what?
Um,
You better suspend disbelief right now, JJ.
but I've always loved it, when Joker's just laughing, he's like nah, 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 and Batman's just behind him. He's like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm here. I've been here the whole time. It's just like it's that kind of stuff that um they didn't really do in the old movies. So when the Nolan movies started incorporating Batman just disappearing when somebody wasn't looking, I was like, finally, they're doing it. That's one of my favorite Batman things is when he just appears and disappears. It's so cool. Yeah. And you're gonna love me.
Um, so yeah, I mean, just I agree with you. Capping off of like that, I think is such a strong moment at the end there because in the end, it does reinforce how I think Batman's fully telling the truth. He's using his wits to get out of the trap from Harley, and then he's
Hmm.
using it. That's his weapon to trigger Joker.
Yep.
But I've always believed that like he's telling the truth there too.
Hmm.
Of like she really did almost have me. I was
Yeah.
chained, blood rushing to my head. I was getting dizzy. There was no way out other like if his mouth was covered, he'd have been doomed.
Right.
So I think it does reinforce of like, and you end up feeling sympathy for Harley Quinn. At least I do. Through all this, I never saw her as this, this freaking villain, take her down or anything either, because it's like she's a perfect case of Batman sees her and he does see a chance at redemption,
Yeah.
a chance at she can be cured. She's just stuck in this web that the Joker has her in. And I think that keeps at least this version of Harley Quinn, like that keeps her interesting and that keeps her, um, I think like endless possibilities in a way. with her
Yeah,
stories. And then, I mean, and I'm not even talking about, of course, the Arlene Sorkin's performance of like that did a huge part in it too, because
sure.
that's the voice that, reading this, I heard her voice
Right.
in doing this and everything. So I think that redemption, I mean, not redemption, but at the end, that revelation of like that she almost had himself, I think it just plays on so much, it speaks volumes. And so that's why I really think that's a great moment at the end. And then of course the end, the big, oh my gosh, is like you think that Harley has seen the light, and then Joker gets one last little hook in her with another, with a little flower in a vase, kind of how he got her the first time.
Right.
It
Right.
says feel better soon, Jay. And I love all of that as she's just, like, I will, and how did it feel to be so dependent on a man that you'd give up everything for him, gaining nothing in return? It felt like, and then she sees it, like, it felt like a kiss. And it's like, here we go.
Yeah. It
Round and round we go.
it's that that kind of like you just want to like shake her like he's bad news. What's the matter with
No,
you?
what are
Like,
you doing?
you know, and because I know, because we've all known somebody like that. We've all been that person, like, I remember being in high school just being just like I don't know, like just stupid and like a girl could look at me and go, "Hey, can I borrow a pencil?" And I'd be like, "Oh my God, I think she loves me."
You can have
Like,
all my pencils.
say it's okay. I know we're not supposed to use pens in math class, but I will use a pen because you can have my only pencil. You know?
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but it does make the story really tragic in that way, and again, believable, um, because it's not a feeling of, and like I said, I like that Harley's kind of gotten away from that, and Harley's kind of her own character now. Like I remember Sam Humphries, when he was writing Harley Quinn, he said that he always thought of her as like Bugs Bunny, like you could put her in any situation and she'll fit. And I always thought that was kind of a fun way to describe her. And when I was rereading this, I thought, what, that's really funny because I definitely think of her that way now. Like she's definitely like the DC equivalent to like equivalent to like Deadpool or something.
Hmm.
But um, but I do have a soft spot in my heart for when she was the Joker's hench girl, and she was at his beck and call, and because there was something kind of cute and fun about her, like that episode you were talking about before, Joker's Favor. Um, she gets a lot to do in that episode, and I love when she tries to like get away from Batman, and he handcuffs her, and she says, "Oh boy, what beauty school is looking kind of good right now." Like she's
Yeah.
always had these like fun little bits, and I just I and I remember thinking like man, like what a great character, and to see where she is now, that's awesome too, from like a feminist point of view, like standing up against your abuser, blah blah blah. I'm not trying to downplay anybody's story there, but I love all of that. But there is kind of a soft spot for the origin story, for the yeah, like when she was just you know madly in love with the Joker, and I love that the first episode of Harley Quinn really showed that, right? The
Hmm.
animated series when she was locked in Arkham, and she was like, any day now, the Joker's coming to get me, and like
Yeah.
and like months go by and he doesn't, and it was that kind of story where I remember watching that going, man, like I love that they're acknowledging that there is this troubled history with the character. It makes perfect sense, and it just because there's like we've been saying, there's a reality to it. We all either have been that person, know that person, whatever. That's just you just want to hit him on the back of the head and go, dude, like you're in a bad situation. You got to get the hell out of here. Um, and who would have known 30 years ago that this is where Harley's journey would have come? I definitely wouldn't have.
Yeah.
But and that even leading to like her friendship with Poison Ivy and all that stuff, which has also been really great. Um, and it just goes to show how much, like you were saying about Paul Dini, he might as well have created Batman because he knows not just Batman but the world so well that this character can transcend the animated series into the comic books and then into, live action, into the video game, and it's almost weird if she's not involved. Like when they announced the Joker sequel, and they said, I'm not 100% sure how to say it, Folie à Deux, I guess. I don't know if
Like
I'm saying that right.
Folie à deux.
Sure. I
Sure.
didn't take French
Sounds
in
good.
high school.
Wee wee.
Um, yeah. So, which I guess translates to Madness for Two. And so, of course, we're all like, oh, it's going to be Harley Quinn. Like, they're going to do her story in the Joker sequel. That's kind of cool. And so I'm looking forward to how they include her in that in whatever way. Um, just like I loved, I mean, Suicide Squad. Let's face it, it's not a great movie, but I loved Margot Robbie the way she played the character because she felt like she just jumped out of out of the animated series, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, oh, okay, that's Harley Quinn. Perfect. I'm excited. I'm on board. And again, it's you know feeling that reality to it. Like, okay, like I get where this character's coming from, and I'm glad that she's grown past it. But but still having these stories around, I go, man, like I do kind of miss that this is where she started. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I did too. This is more my jam than damn, like I said, the Palmiotti and Amanda Connor's version, but I'm not gonna sit there and like crap on that either. Because I mean the I was reading that for a while and I was entertained.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think this was just the character's introduction, and because like we've said, they knocked the origin out of the park. That I mean, kind of like you said, it just kind of she was almost instant canon. She's always been around, even
Yeah.
though we know that she hasn't. Um, a few moments I'd like to mention and point out that are just like nothing but like fun little nuggets.
Hmm.
Um, definitely when Harley shows up at Arkham for the first time, there is a nod to Paul Dini, Bruce Timm, and Kevin Altieri.
Oh
The
yeah, yeah.
the three guys that speak die. That's Paul Dini. Then
Hmm.
I can't think of which one. I almost want to say the one that says the creature is Bruce Timm, and then get out of here is Kevin Altieri.
Uh,
Um, that's a fun little touch.
yeah.
When Harley does the Batman or not Batman, Joker basically like telling about facing off with Batman. There's one of him falling into chemicals. So of course that's a nod to either the Killing Joke or Batman 89, whichever one you want to.
Hmm.
That's a nod to one of his origins.
Right.
The Aquacade that the death of 100 smiles takes place was actually meant as where Tim and Dini talked and hashed out this origin story was at a restaurant that they went to that was the quote unquote definition of tacky. They used the setting as a inspiration for the Aquacade. And then
Hmm.
there's when Harley's first fantasy of life with Mr. J, and they have the kids. They're sitting at home. Joker's in the recliner reading a paper while she's in the kitchen, and the two kids are just raising a ruckus around the house. I do
Yeah.
love that one. The little Harley says, "Daddy, JJ's poisoning me."
Yeah.
Classic JJ's, am I right?
I know, right?
And then also you see the silhouette in which smart of them to do it in silhouette, but there's just enough to see that that's Babs and Buster Bunny from Tiny Toons being
Yeah.
hung in the back. I love that little nugget. And then him he comments on it in the back. The original, so Harley in her nightgown, it had to be red, could not be like a see-through or anything like that to
Right.
to get through. And then she says, "Oh, come on, Puddin', don't you want to rev up your Harley?" The original pose for that, I think, probably seemed a little bit more risque, if you will.
Hmm.
The original pose is that she's almost like leaning back on the Harley, but I think I do get the point of what he says in this. That's kind of like the only thing he had to change in all of this was just
Yeah.
changing her pose, in which you can get the pose that made the cut. I mean, they both mark the same thing. Those are
We
kind
know
of
what's
like
happening
features.
there.
Yeah, we know what's going on. We know about Harley's one. I think those were like the last things that I really wanted to point out.
uh, it's funny you mentioned the JJ's poisoning me because it's the first time that JJ's been mentioned in in animated Batman. Because in
Mhm.
Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker, he called the Tim Drake Joker JJ.
Look at that. Your
And
future's not looking good, man.
I know we started this off with my murder, and
Yeah.
it's just, or I'm gonna go crazy. Oh my God, it's all bad. Uh, I had a great time on the show today, though.
That's all
Uh,
that matters.
but I will say that I love the way the book does the her fantasy, and like they have the Batman head on the wall. I think it's really
Yeah.
funny. Um, I always like that because in the first Suicide Squad movie, when they see visions of what they really want, because Harley had said normal to setting on the dryer, and you see her like in her vision hitting normal, and she looks like a normal person. Jared Leto looks more like himself as opposed to the Joker, and they have a little family. I was like, I remember the first time seeing that, thinking, man, I wish they'd done it like they did in Mad Love, where they still looked like Harley and Joker, living a normal life. Because I think that juxtaposition is funnier and less jarring than just seeing Margot Robbie look like herself and Jared Leto look like himself. You know what I mean? Like, I just, I that scene is effective. Don't get me wrong, but I just thought, well, clearly David Ayer was taking inspiration from Mad Love, but I would have just gone full Mad Love and have the Joker still look like the Joker and not look like Jared Leto.
Oh boy. Uh moving right along, JJ. uh let's talk about some favorites. What was your favorite part? Or what is your favorite part of Mad Love?
I thought a lot about this because I didn't want to mention something that in the book. Um, so I will say that my favorite part is that part where she's fantasizing about their future and
Hmm.
and even because there's something so cute about it. Um, but I do want to give an honorable mention because I think it's better in the book than in the adaptation when she breaks Joker out of Arkham and he starts to chuckle and he gets more and more chuckly as gets into a bigger laugh as the scene goes on.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like in the animated series, she breaks him out and he's just like cracking up in the car. Um, I really liked how it was done in the book, where it just kind of progresses, up and up, from full
Yeah.
on Joker laugh.
Daddy, stop
But
laughing again.
uh, he's kind of she's a hilarious kid. She watches Nightmare Before Christmas, and I'm like, or even
Yes.
like a couple other
All
movies,
kids
and
should.
I'm just like, how are you not scared of this? Like, I was terrified of this when I was a little kid. I don't think I saw it till I was in high school, but
Oh
the
geez.
trailers when I was a kid, I was like, that's scary. I'm not watching that. That's too scary. No, no, I don't know. Girls are more mature than boys, I guess. I
She's
don't
on
know.
the right path.
I think so.
So, all right. Mine is the ending when Batman tells Joker that she almost had him, that she almost got him. Could have been an almost got him moment. Um, because I think in addition to everything that I've already said about that scene, that part, like it's a perfect like joke.
Yeah,
Joker, the joke's on you, Joker. She had me,
yeah,
and then you screwed it up. Like it's a great joke that's told on the Joker, which really infuriates him even more and all that. So, and I think what a scene without Harley even in it, and they're talking about her, it's like the scene is all about her, and it
yeah,
like elevates her,
yep,
as like she is smarter than he gives her credit for. And I mean, and it's just the base of like, it's a character, this character of that Dini has created, and the stories, and how is she even in the picture, and why, and all that stuff too. It's like he just gave a lot of depth to the character, and I think that's like a really great moment. And yeah, like I just said, of like, and in the end, it's like it's a great punchline on the Joker,
Right.
making him the fool. I think that's just like perfect. That's funny. How about
Yeah.
a favorite panel?
I again, another one that's not in the episode. One that I really really love. That one that's always stuck with me is when Joker's driving all pissed off to the Aquacade, and he imagines Penguin, Two Face, and Riddler making fun of him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I always love that. It just the visual of it, and the idea that like maybe these guys are kind of friends, and Joker doesn't want to like look like a fool in front of all of them.
Yeah.
Um, I think is so cool and clever. And again, like I kind of wish that had been adapted into the show. Wouldn't that be cool to hear Paul Williams, Richard Mole, and John Glover saying all that stuff? Um, but I love it in the book, feeling like this is how kind of but then this is how whacked out the Joker is, that he genuinely thinks all of them are gonna go, oh yeah, Joker couldn't do it, so Mr. Harley Quinn or whatever. Uh, but I love the idea that it could go both ways, couldn't it? Like maybe they would make fun of him because she did it over him, or maybe they would just be pissed that they didn't get to kill Batman.
Yeah, you can just hear Joker being too like, Harley, you're gonna make me look like a boob in front of my friends.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good image. I like that. My favorite actually is just 2 pages later, him bursting through the doors and yelling Harley. I think you
Mm,
can like that's just another image. That's a great image from Tim. Um, Colored well, playing with that noir look, the whole approach to the animated series. Like that's just like it just looks great. It's
it's
worthy of the full page.
yeah, it's scary too. Like oh my God, like he's like what's higher than pissed off? That's what he is.
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, great. I mean, it's just a great art from Bruce Tim throughout and everything. And yeah, there are other pages that look really good, but that one just really stands out to me because, like I always say on the show, if we can get an image where I can create a story around it, I don't need any other context. Those are ones that I like a lot. And yeah, that's
Mhm.
definitely one because he's always on Harley or Harley. Oh, Joker's pissed off again, and this one catches her off guard, and she's a little like looking over her shoulder, and yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
This is the point of the show where I ask JJ, would you like to see Batman Mad Love adapted in animation? But we already did that. So what are your thoughts on like briefly, we're not going to break it down, obviously, but they adapted this into an episode of television. What do you think about that?
It's a go-to for me. It's one
Yeah.
of my top 10. Um, but like I said, my only critique of it is that I really wish it had been in the previous animation style, because
Yeah.
I'll never understand the decision to give Joker black eyes and no red lips. It's just such a weird look for him. Although I will say that having the Joker say "May the floss be with you"
Yes.
is it's so freaking hilarious. And because that's not in the book. I don't remember what he says when they run out. But you got to know that like when they were writing it to be adapted, like Paul Dini, because Paul Dini wrote that episode, obviously. You figure that like at this point, obviously they know it's Mark Hamill, and they're gonna mess with him and say, "All right, hey Mark, check out the script."
I I mean, I love it. And I guess it's been a while since I have read the book and then immediately pressed play on the episode.
Mhm.
So it just continues to surprise me each time of how they pretty much literally adapted the entire story into an episode. Which I guess makes sense because they weren't struggling for content because it was a 64-page comic fitting into a 22-minute episode.
Yeah.
So that's at least good because a 22-minute or a 22-page issue in a 22-minute episode, okay, you need to come up with some new content then. But
Right.
this is just because it's like they were given everything. So my only nitpick is kind of like what you said, and I think is almost any episode of the new Batman Adventures of I wish that it looked like the Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah.
But that was, a decision made by people who are a lot richer than everybody else. So, whatever, because those stories are still good. Most
Yeah.
of them.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
and
love the
Mad
new
Love
Batman
was-
Adventures.
And Mad Love, I think, is definitely. I think that episode is beloved because of the book.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think it would receive some of the, fair, I guess, criticisms because it's always going to be held because it's a continuation of that universe.
Right.
It's compared to the animated series, and the drawbacks would be in the look, except for Harley. Harley looks pretty much the same, and I like that. But yeah, I mean, going off top, the episode, I do love the episode. I think it's great.
And hashtag Team Yellow Oval.
Hashtag Team Yellow Oval.
I will always be hashtag Team Yellow Oval, and I hope that the Brave and the Bold Batman movie, I hope he has the yellow oval, because come on, damn it, where's my damn yellow oval? I mean, I guess Keaton's gonna have it in the Flash, but
I know. We'll see. We'll see. Oh boy. All right. Well, hey, JJ, I want to thank you for coming back on for this romantic discussion on Mad Love. People, I can already feel it. People are swooning over this episode.
I certainly hope so, because it. I mean, I don't come on this show for nothing. I mean,
That's right. He was expensive. Like,
yeah.
It's gonna set me back a few months, but that's okay because love is in the air and love is in our ears, in your ears, as they listen to us chat about this book. So yes, thank you for coming back on the show. And why don't you take this moment now to plug away anything and everything where people can follow you?
Yes, so you can follow me on Twitter at 4ComicJunkies. That's FOR Comic Junkies. Also the podcast 4 Comic Junkies. You can also follow my other show, which is the Spider-Man Book Club, which I shamelessly ripped off of Lauer's format here. We do everything exactly the same. I even do the welcome to the Spider-Man Book Club at the beginning. No, I'm kidding. I don't do that.
Son of a bitch. Son of a bitch.
Actually, side note, because I remember thinking I wanted to do that, and I texted you and I said, "Hey, so I'm thinking about doing a Spider-Man book club, but I don't want to feel like I'm ripping you off. Or what do you think?" And you were just like, "That sounds fine. I don't care at all."
I said, "Go to hell, JJ."
You're like, "I'll kill you."
You son of a bitch.
But yeah, so 4 Comic Junkies and the Spider-Man Book Club you can find anywhere you get your podcasts. So please check those out as I work really hard on them. And Ryan's actually been on quite a few episodes of the 4 Comic Junkies show.
It was talk some Green Lantern, talk Doomsday Clock, talked Lego Batman.
Oh yeah. Oh, I forgot about that one.
Is there another one I'm missing, or is that all of them?
We talked Long Halloween too.
Oh my god, how do I forget that? I forgot that I talked about the Long Halloween. I'm ashamed. Wow. Wow, fraud.
Well, we'll just
there you go.
Bill Raimi's gonna kick down your door and take away your Batman card.
That's what he does. As I said at the top of the show about the Batman Podcast Network, I'm trying to pull it up real quick because at least 4 Comic Junkies is part of the Batman Podcast Network, is it not?
It is.
Okay.
Spider-Man is not, but the 4 Comic Junkies show is part of the Batman Podcast Network, which I love saying at the top of the show. I feel very important.
The top of the show. 4 Comic Junkies. So there you go. As for the Batman Book Club, you can follow on Twitter and Instagram at the Batman BC for latest episode drops, upcoming episodes, sometimes even some giveaways. Remember those bracket challenges that come around every March Madness? Well, the third one's coming up soon. It's going to be a doozy, and I'm very stressed out about it. So pay attention to the socials for that stuff. If you would like to dabble in some more content, frolic with me and my other frolicker, Peter Arvera, subscribe to the Batman Book Club YouTube channel, where we are continuing Road to No Man's Land, getting near the end. And then we're going to hop into No Man's Land. But Road to No Man's Land is on there, as well as by far, surprising me the most viewed video on that page is my discussion with Tom King. So you can see both of our faces speak words if you're ever so inclined on the YouTube. So go ahead and check that out. If you want to write into the show, you can do that, thebatmanbc@gmail.com. And if you want to support the show, there's a variety of ways you can do that. Patreon.com/thebatmanbc, tpublic.com. Type in TBBC for the Batman Book Club. And if you want to support the show and you don't want to spend any money at all, it's 100% A-okay. The cheapest, quickest, and most impactful thing you can do is rate and review the show wherever you listen to it. So Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, wherever. Just go to the rate and review portion of that. Rate and review the show, because the more reviews it gets, the more it helps spread the word. And as we all know, the word is panic. So for JJ Hodges, I am Ryan Lauer, and until next time, read more Batman comics.